Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving both our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce to you and members of the Legislative Assembly today some dignitaries from the Soviet Union. Following a memorandum of understanding signed by the Deputy Premier Jim Horstman in October of '89, Alberta and the Russian Soviet Federal Socialist Republic have worked to establish sports agreement and exchanges of peoples. Members of the delegation, including a biathlon team, who are here to participate in sporting activities in Canmore and Hinton, have been discussing that exchange today. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to continued friendship and economic development with that country. I would ask the dignitaries that are here to rise as I call their names. They're in your gallery, and remain standing until this assembly gives them their proper recognition. They are Mr. Vasily Mashuga, Chairman of the Republic's Sports Committee, Mr. Alexander Kutsanov, Deputy Chairman of the Republic's Sports Committee, Mr. Alexander Shumakov, Sports Coordinator of the Council of Ministers, Mr. Viktor Haratinov, Director of Gorky Automobile Plant Sports Club. They are accompanied also by the aide to the Chairman, Ms. Marina Kavachenko, and interpreter Marina Vechanenskia. Please give them the warm welcome of this House.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill Number 8, Livestock and Livestock Products Amendment Act, 1991. This being a money bill, His Honor, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, having been informed of the contents of this bill, recommends the same to the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, this bill will allow for the development of a producer-supported financial security program to protect Alberta sellers of livestock from non-payment.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture has moved first reading of Bill 8, Livestock and Livestock Products Amendment Act 1991. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill Number 8, Livestock and Livestock Products Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the Honorable Mr. Isley, is now read a first time.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill Number 2, the Forest Development Research Trust Fund Amendment Act 1991. The purpose of this bill is to clarify the positions and roles of the members of the Forest Research Advisory Council. And this being a money bill, His Honor, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, having been informed of the contents of the bill, recommends the same to the Assembly.
The Honourable Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife has moved first reading of Bill Number 2. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill Number 2, Forest Development Research Trust Fund Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the Honorable Mr. Fjordbotn, is now read a first time.
Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill Number 15, the Alberta Foundation for the Arts Act. This being a money bill, His Honor the Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, having been informed of the contents of this bill, recommends same to the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, this bill will greatly simplify arts granting procedures in this province and will generate administrative savings that will be passed on to artists and arts organizations.
The Honourable Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism has moved first reading to Bill 15, Alberta Foundation for the Arts Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 15, Alberta Foundation for the Arts Act, introduced by the Honorable Mr. Main, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the Public Contributions Act 39th Annual Report for the year of 1990.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to file the 15th Annual Report of the Alberta Council on Admissions and Transfer.
Tabor Warner.
Mr. Speaker, under Section 4, Subsection 3 of the Election Act, I am tabling 4 copies of the report of the Chief Electoral Officer on the Edmonton-Strathcona by-election held Monday, December 17, 1990.
Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to file copies of a discussion paper toward a new forest policy in Alberta. This is the background for the debate this afternoon on forestry.
2. Additional.
Introduction of special guests.
Member for Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce 2 groups of students to you and to the Assembly. They are both from the Alberta Vocational Centre in my riding, the Winifred Stewart campus. There are 14 in the one group with the teacher Georgia Ramos and aide Marilyn Baldwin. And so I would request that they stand. And while we're at it, we'll do the other group as well. They are with the teacher Roberta Brosu, and I would request that they also stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly. I'll be bringing their pictures to them in a couple of weeks' time when the pictures are in.
Redwater Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the rest of the members of the Assembly on behalf of the Minister of Environment and myself, a group of young people called the International Youth for Peace and Justice, and this is a non-profit organization based on the premise of having young people educating young people, and this year's theme is the environment. And they are seated in the members' gallery, and with is Roberta Sanders, a supervisor and also student at McGill University, Montreal. Tracy Diabo, and she's from Gannawaga Reserve in Quebec. Laura Petwarden from India. Lori Mazaraz from Kitchener, Ontario. And Marta Mekowin from originally born in Africa and living in Atlanta, USA. With them also is Barbara Meckelin, a guide from Lamont, and Janice Fishborn from the city of Edmonton. I ask they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to members of the Assembly this afternoon a group of grade 10 honor social studies students from Crescent Heights High School in Calgary. They're seated in the public gallery, and I'd like to ask them, along with their teachers Ron Jeffrey and Chris McIntosh, to please rise and receive the acknowledgement and welcome from the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. Mr. Speaker, there seems to be some very large gaps in this government story respecting its dealings with Novotel. Mr. Speaker, I want to focus specifically on what this government knew and when it knew it, Mr. Speaker. On August the 10th, 1989, this government provided $340 million U.S., or $435 million Canadian, in guarantees to Novotel to cover the indebtedness of Novotel. Mr. Speaker, then on January 11th, 1991, it increased the amount of these guarantees to $525 million. Now, my question to the minister is simply this. On what basis did the minister increase the guarantees to Novotel by $90 million? There must have been some rationale behind it.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, the
The bulk of the guarantees to which the honourable member refers were to replace guarantees that were previously in existence at the time that AGT owned Novotel previously, and they were basically with respect to the purchasing financing program that the company had in place for the United States. The balance of the guarantees related to the operation line of credit for the company.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister said the other day that he was not really aware of Novatel's severe financial problems until March the 12th, Mr. Speaker. But yet, in January, he decided to put an extra $90 million, over $90 million of taxpayers' money into this company. My question to the minister, didn't the fact that the minister had to increase the exposure of Alberta taxpayers by almost $100 million tip him off that Novotel was in deep financial problems?
Mr. Speaker, the guarantees aren't a cash injection. They were set as an umbrella with respect to Novotel carrying on the type of operations that had been carried on in the past. That was put into place at the time that the government reacquired Novotel. On March the 12th, we received the statement of losses for the current year 1990.
Speaker, it's still increasing exposure for the taxpayers of Alberta. Right. Let's look at this umbrella that you handed out, Mr. Speaker. According to the province's Auditor General, the amount of money that Novotel drew on these guarantees increased from $7 million at the start of 1990 to over $200 million at the end of 1990. My question to the minister, was he aware of this? Was he aware of this, and if so, why didn't he do something about it instead of just keep handing out money to this guy?
Mr. Speaker, no money was handed out. There are fluctuations with respect to the cash required for this company as there is for any other company, and particularly, I would say, in a competitive company, competitive industry. But the umbrella was set up. It basically replaced the type of financing that was in place previously. And then in March the 12th, we got the statement of losses indicating the losses for 1990. That's when we received that advice, and we made it public the very next day.
Second main question.
I wouldn't want you running my personal finances. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to direct my second question to the same minister, Mr. Speaker. The last set of questions and answers shows clearly why we need to get to the bottom of this Novotel fiasco and get the financial statements from this company, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Premier bragged about how open his government is about providing information to the public, Mr. Speaker. If I may quote him, he said, and I quote from Hansard, "There's a tremendous amount of information to the public and the members of the legislature. We've seen it come and go in wheelbarrows, full to the honourable members when they request it." End of quote, Mr. Speaker. Well, my question to the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications is simply this. Now, I'll leave up to the choice of the particular vehicle of delivery up to the Minister, Mr. Speaker, but will he follow the Premier's commitment and table the full financial statements of Novotel for the last 2 years to this honourable member?
Mr. Speaker, there is a customary practice in the House for information requests to be put forward, and I would merely remind the honourable member that he could do so. Insofar as who may be there and guiding, I would the financial affairs of these matters, I would merely suggest that a party that is mired in debt like the NDP should question its leadership in that regard too.
Mr. Speaker, we would have no problem if we were just part of this government. We could come to the minister and it would be over right away, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but the minister may want to say that he's open, Mr. Speaker, but the minister responded to a motion for return requesting Novatel's financial statements by tabling a 2-sentence document that says these statements are found in the AGT annual report. Very deceptive, Mr. Speaker. When we poured through the AGT's annual report, we found only 2 lines and a few brief footnotes relating to Novatel's financial performance. My question is to the minister. Does the minister feel that this paltry piece of information is good enough, especially when we've lost millions of dollars? Is he really telling people of Alberta that?
Mr. Speaker, in the past, the financial reports of Novotel have always been consolidated as part of Alberta government telephones. That's been the practice for many years since its inception. This year, with the privatization of AGT, the TELUS Corporation being in the private sector, the financial reports for Novotel will be filed in the ordinary course in the same manner as the AGT Commission reports were filed.
Mr. Speaker, this is absolute deception, dishonesty, and secrecy, and this is what's wrong with this government. Mr. Speaker, top it off with the mismanagement. Let me ask this minister a very simple question. Is he aware, under British parliamentary democracy, that the buck stops with him? Instead of blaming everybody else but himself, does he realize that he should be taking the responsibility for millions of dollars of loss of taxpayers' money down the drain, Mr. Speaker?
Calgary Northwest. Order, please. Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, please.
Don't blame me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has been quick to blame the auditors, to blame the underwriters, the directors of Novotel, virtually anyone except itself. However, the facts are there to view. There was a $300 million loan guarantee originally issued by AGT, and when the government took over, suddenly it sprang to $525 million. The most recent annual report shows that the book value for for Novotel, the total value was $117 million, and yet the analysts will tell you it's only worth perhaps $100 million. And yet this government managed to pay $159 million not 3 months ago with an option to pay another $15 million. My question to the Minister for Technology, Research and Telecommunications, will the Minister at least take responsibility for paying $42 million more than what the book value for Novotel shows?
Mr. Speaker, we clearly acknowledged at the time that the put agreement was exercised and the government reacquired the company, Novotel, that the purchase price, as per that agreement, was $159 million, as the honourable member indicates. We had previously received, that is, as the government, we had previously received as a portion of the subscription price from investors, not from taxpayers, but from investors, approximately $118 million as being the pro rata share that related to Novotel. I pointed out at the time that the difference between those two figures, approximately $40 million, was the actual premium that was paid to Novotel or to TELUS at that time. But because, of course, the fact that we own 44% of the company, the actual cost to the taxpayers was 56% of that sum.
That's quite a premium to have to pay. Could the Minister confirm whether, in fact, the inflated price for Novotel was simply a convenient way to give money to TELUS so that TELUS could boast of a profit and issue a dividend and support the government's backing selling of AGT?
Mr. Speaker, that particular agreement was important to preserve the integrity of that particular offering. And that particular offering brought hundreds of millions of dollars to the taxpayers of Alberta. In fact, that 44% interest that I have just referred to has appreciated some $120 million even since the time of closing.
Well, finally, Mr. Speaker, refers to the wheelbarrows of information that we'd like to get. And the question I'd like to put to the Minister is simply this. Will the Minister tell us who is advising him on the restructuring or whatever plan there is, if there is a plan, and will he further table that in the House so that all members can see where are we going with Novotel?
I'm sure again that the honourable member knows the practice of the House in that regard, and I'd be pleased to see the motion of return table.
Bow Valley.
Miss
Valley, not Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question to the Treasurer. Mr. Speaker, Albertans and people from Bow Valley in particular are getting a bit anxious about their economic future, so I would ask the Minister if he would tell the House a definite date that he's about to bring down his 1991-92 budget.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague is right in identifying the way in which this government has moved the Alberta economy ahead.
And there's no doubt that Albertans will look forward to the economic message and the statement of the future that will come in the budget. And that date, Mr. Speaker, will be April the 4th at 8 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the minister could indicate whether he will be proposing a balanced budget.
Mr. Speaker, as I said last night in looking at the interim supply estimates, much of what we will say in the budget must be maintained until April the 4th. I'm sure all Albertans will have an opportunity to look favorably upon the message, but at this point I do not want to give too much of a headline before we get to that date, and therefore, respectfully, Mr. Speaker, I would restrict my answer to simply saying that the date is April the 4th, 8 p.m., and the rest of the message will come at that point.
Edmonton Jasper Place, followed by Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The forestry management agreements provide the lucky few with an economic benefit in the form of timber for pennies on the dollar, and they keep the competition out. It's no wonder they can be used as collateral in a banking arrangement. Procter & Gamble was provided with an expanded FMA in late 1988 in support of a sawmill at Manning, Alberta. They were going to use the wood chips to expand their pulp operation in Grand Prairie. Now that Procter & Gamble has announced that both those projects have been delayed past the deadlines, I wonder if the minister will indicate if he's going to take back those FMA lands so that maybe we can get it right this time when we develop.
Good idea.
Work will be annoyed. Mr. Speaker, I haven't been formally advised whether or not there's any inordinate delay in the Grand Prairie Phase 2 of their pulp mill. They've asked for an extension, of which we certainly granted to them. They wanted to do more environmental studies and more work to make before they proceeded, and that seemed reasonable. It's only some rumors that would suggest that they have put it on hold indefinitely. But I have to say one thing, that if they do not move ahead with GP2 by the timelines that have been established, they will lose that wood supply. On the Manning sawmill itself, they made a commitment which is entirely separate on the Manning sawmill. It was not tied to Grand Prairie Phase 2 expansion, and the Manning sawmill was committed to be built at Manning, and they are really not in default yet, except they're in anticipatory default, I guess you could call it, because they can't possibly build the mill by the date that they've said they would. But to make it clear, if Procter & Gamble does not follow through on their commitment to build the sawmill at Manning, the wood supply that was allotted to that mill will be withdrawn.
Well, just so I understand what anticipatory default is, I take it the company cannot meet the deadline. Does that mean you've now decided to take the timber away, yes or no?
No, Mr. Speaker, we always believe in being reasonable in these situations, and right now, you can think it's a laughing matter, but it's the solid wood industry all across North America is in difficulty right now. There's closures that have taken place. The one at Wellwood and the panelboard plant is one example, and there's been others. It's difficult times. Now, if by what I mean by anticipatory default, the original agreement was they would build the sawmill by July of 1991. But even if they started today, they couldn't complete the sawmill by that date, so that's what I mean by anticipatory default. They're really not in default until July, and I'm happy to discuss with them if it's reasonable that they need some time to complete the sawmill, fine, but I haven't had those discussions and requests for an extension. But I emphasize again, if they do not build the mill that they committed to build, that wood supply would be withdrawn.
Goldbar, followed by Calgary McCall.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the report of the Mayor's Task Force on Community and Family Violence in Calgary has reinforced everything that we've been saying on this critical issue. The incidence is high and growing and unacceptable. There are some positive interventions that can be made if there's a political will. Today, Mr. Speaker, my questions to the Minister of Family and Social Services are on but one facet, one component of this issue, and that is on shelters. I'd like to ask the Minister, Mr. Speaker, does the Minister consider that 5,376 families seeking refuge were turned away from Alberta shelters last year to be an acceptable statistic and a comment on his government's commitment to families?
Mr. Speaker, naturally we're concerned at any time that a family is turned away from a shelter at a time of need. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, they don't go without services. We make sure that there is a safe environment for them to turn to on the interim. As it relates to the statistic of 5,300, certainly the member opposite and I could have some discussions about that in terms of whether that's an actual number or a valid number. I would say this, Mr. Speaker, that from the information that I've been provided with, and on a provincial basis, and it is a provincial-wide program, it's not just an Edmonton program or a Calgary program, it's a provincial-wide program, Mr. Speaker, we're running at approximately a 75% occupancy rate. And as a result of that, Mr. Speaker, we are trying to adjust some of the priorities from within. We're trying to adjust some of the allocations from within. And where we have some facilities that are running as low as 30 and 40% occupancy, we're taking some of those dollars and we're reallocating them to areas of high need.
Mr. Speaker, well, this is an unacceptable figure to most Albertans, whether it is to the minister or not. Mr. Speaker, will the minister commit to provide 100% of basic emergency services funding, as the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters has requested?
Mr. Speaker, I'm working very closely with the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters. We meet on a regular basis. We have in past, Mr. Speaker, put one formula into place. The feedback that I've now had from the women's shelter is that the formula isn't working as good as we had initially anticipated, and we're working to see if we can't assess it and reestablish an appropriate working model. But again, Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize our commitment to this problem that all of us are concerned about, that all of us share. And I would remind the member opposite that this government, in the last 5 years, Mr. Speaker, has increased our funding almost 300%. But, Mr. Speaker, we recognize there's more to be done. We're going to continue to work with the Council of Women's Shelter, and we're going to continue to work with municipalities to find solutions.
Calgary McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask a question of the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. Mr. Speaker, over the last year, the diminishing number of insurance companies providing motor vehicle insurance in Alberta has alarmed many of us due to a decreasing competitive marketplace. Also, many more Albertans are being forced onto high-cost facility insurance. Question to the Minister, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister inform Albertans what the government is doing to ensure that a competitive and complete marketplace remains in Alberta to insure Albertans' property?
Mr. Speaker, in answer to the honourable member's question, there's no question that the marketplace today in Alberta is competitive. Our rates for insurance premiums have remained low compared to those in other provinces as a result of that competitive marketplace. He is quite correct in expressing concern, however, over the some $77 million worth of losses that insurance companies in the province have encountered over the past year. And we have been meeting with the industry, with representatives of both those companies here in Alberta and those national companies, and have asked the Automobile Insurance Board to look at ways in which we can ensure that we continue to have automobile insurance that's both affordable and that operates in the best interests of Albertans.
Mr. Speaker, concern has been raised that Alberta may be forced into some form of government insurance, which I'm sure will upset most Albertans, especially myself. What is the future outlook for this industry in Alberta with affordable insurance for all Albertans?
Mr. Speaker, a difficult question. I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't support the move to public insurance such as the member for Edmonton Whitemud suggested a minute ago. However, I do believe that we have to now look at the Ontario situation where we're going to see public automobile insurance and the potential loss of some players in our marketplace with respect to automobile insurance and at the increasing number of claims there are in the province. So I feel that
in answer to the question, we have to first look at some ways in which we can reduce claims, in other words, have fewer accidents. We must take a look at alternatives that are there to make the dollars go further, and our Automobile Insurance Board is doing that. And we must as well continue dialogue with the industry to make sure that our climate for investment is tough enough to ensure that our citizens have the proper insurance, but flexible enough to encourage that investment to continue the viable free marketplace in this province.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Honourable Solicitor General. Mr. Speaker, the ALCB's announced closure of its Calgary warehouse will result in the loss of at least 90 Calgary jobs in that facility. Employees have been given reassurance that they will have the opportunity to transfer to other positions within the ALCB. However, they've expressed a good deal of skepticism about the job security that those positions might entail. Mr. Solicitor General, Mr. Speaker, my question is, what assurances can he give these workers and their families that the positions that they are transferred to won't simply disappear with the stroke of an ALCB pen in a few months?
Mr. Speaker, in rationalizing services of the Alberta Liquor Control Board, it was determined that the two major warehouses in Alberta, one being in southern Alberta and one in northern Alberta, were both operating at about 40% efficiency. This is no way to run any business, even a government business. So we therefore made a decision that one of the warehouses would be closed. The warehouse that is being closed, the one that's being left open is attached to the head office of the Alberta Liquor Control Board, and the people who have been working in the warehouse in southern Alberta have all been informed that no permanent employee of the ALCB will lose their job. They will be transferred to jobs that are vacant, or they will come to the northern Alberta warehouse.
Mr. Speaker, it's been reported that there has been a drop in beer sales at the Alberta Liquor Control outlets in Calgary of approximately 20% to 50%. And this roughly corresponds to the increase in beer sales through the 7 private cold beer stores that have been opened in that city. Mr. Speaker, the question is, will the Solicitor General confirm that the ultimate objective of the government is the privatization of liquor retailing and wholesaling in Alberta?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt, Mr. Speaker, that there will be increased privatization on this as those already in place beer stores continue to expand their sales and increase their sales. We have always had a minor amount of sales in the ALCB stores because they've been handled by the Alberta Brewer stores and now by all the hotel outlets as well as by the cold beer stores which are starting out. So yes, there is a decreasing sales through the ALCB. Further to that, the union is being kept well advised of these items, Mr. Speaker. In respect to the Calgary warehouse, there was a meeting held between management and union people together to assure the employees that we have a very high regard for, that there is going to be as little displacement as possible and no displacement of permanent jobs at all.
Bakerville, followed by Calgary-McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Agriculture announced today some details of the privatization of Alberta Terminals Limited to Cargill Grain Limited, bragging about only losing $2.6 million in the process. The Minister forgot about something called inflation in his figuring, Mr. Speaker, making the loss in real terms over $17 million. It's no wonder taxpayers break into a cold sweat every time this government talks about privatization, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to ask this minister what he's trying to cover up by not releasing the financial statements of this company since 1988 and by not telling Albertans the real truth about the amount of their money he's lost in this sale.
Mr. Speaker, I think the press release was very clear and explicit. I thought even the member for Vegreville would be able to comprehend it. It stated the total investment of this government into Alberta Terminals Limited over the years is 17.5. The total amount of money recaptured and returned to Treasury as 14.9 million. And all he's got to do is do a little subtraction to understand what the cost of operating that facility over the 10, 11-year time period is. And I think when you put the question to any of the producers out there, they felt that average cost of $240,000 per year was not unrealistic. Keep in mind, in fairness to the operation of Alberta Terminals Limited, that with the restrictions we put on their activities so they weren't competing head-on with the private sector, led partly to the $240,000 a year cost of maintaining that terminal system within the total overall grain handling system.
This in addition, Mr. Speaker, to the $4 million of taxpayers' money they gave to Cargill to build a plant in High River, Alberta. I'd like to ask the minister why he didn't make every effort to sell this company to an Alberta-based, Alberta-owned farmer cooperative, the Alberta Wheat Pool, instead of making a sweetheart deal with the largest private corporation in North America.
Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable member is being totally unfair in his opening comment. Cargill meatpacking plant at High River qualified under the Agricultural Processing Marketing Agreement and was treated in a very similar way to any other meatpacking outfit in Alberta that was doing improvements, modernization, or upgrading. Now, with respect to his specific question, I think if he checked the process by which we privatized Alberta Terminals Limited, it was an open bid. The company went to the highest bidder, and just to again set the record straight for the honourable member, Cargill, although they are a large multinational trading company in the grain sector, are not a significant player in Western Canada. They account for about slightly over 8% of the marketing of grain in Western Canada.
Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it has come to my attention that university and college students in Alberta are being forced to study on an empty stomach. Food banks in Calgary, Edmonton, Fort McMurray, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, and Red Deer all report that they regularly have students as clients. The situation has grown so bad that 4 student associations are planning campus food banks to serve their members. My question is to the Minister of Advanced Education. Does the Minister of Advanced Education feel that it is acceptable in Alberta that students have to resort to food banks to eat?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's a bit of a unique question. As honourable members know, we have a very, very successful system of post-secondary education with our 28 institutions. I can only conclude, Mr. Speaker, with the lowest tuition fee in the nation next to Quebec and the perhaps highest funding per capita in the country. I'm at a loss to explain to the honourable member why students in the various institutions should not be allowed to do what they want to do. I'm puzzled if the honourable member is saying the government now has a responsibility of feeding the adults who attend the post-secondary system.
Mr. Speaker, the situation is that over the last 7 years, student loans have gone down by 20%, causing severe hardship for many students, especially single and married students. Will the minister direct the Student Finance Board to increase the guidelines for student aid to acceptable living levels to avoid this type of hardship?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member may be aware, there was a complete review of the Student Finance Board not very long ago. Student loans were raised some 20%. There is provision, Mr. Speaker, for grants up to $2,500 for needy students. I'm confident as minister, even though there's perhaps special requirements related to rent in areas such as Calgary, that our student loans in Alberta are amongst the highest in the nation.
Redwater Andrew, followed by Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on March 31st, 1991, the 10-year policing contract with the federal government expires, and to this concern, on March 18th, I and a number of my constituents met with the Solicitor General to discuss issues dealing with the RCMP. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Solicitor General. Is what arrangements has the Minister taken to ensure that the province of Alberta will continue to be policed on April 1st and thereon?
Mr. Speaker, I did indeed meet with a number of constituents from the questioner's constituency in respect to the town of Andu and the closing of a detachment there. We are making every attempt to ensure that we have a substation there manned by 2 RCMP officers, and part of our attempts are to ensure that the officers live in Andu. And the last one that hasn't been able to find accommodation has not been able to continue residence there. However, in respect to the agreement, yes, it does expire on the 31st of this March, a 10-year agreement, and the department is making every effort to get agreement with the Department of Solicitor General Federal from the Honorable Pierre Cadieux to continue a 10-year agreement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, to the Solicitor General. Can the Solicitor General assure my constituents and also this Assembly that he will do all that is necessary to ensure that a fair and equitable contract will be achieved in short order?
Mr. Speaker, we are one contracting province. There's only 2 in Canada that aren't. The province of Ontario and Quebec do not contract. We do for the RCMP for 1,083 policemen. We're the second biggest contractor with the provincial government. There is a civilized dispute going on between the department and the federal people, and I will be meeting next week with my counterpart in British Columbia in order that we can get on track as soon as possible the discussions again between the provincial solicitors general and the honorable minister on our federal counterpart. And I am assured by him that he is agreed to meet with us again, and we will have those discussions on track.
Calgary Forest Lawn. Mr. Speaker, last night and today a number of calls have come into my office and into the office of the Canadian Western Natural Gas Company complaining about serious odors in the area around the hub oil plant in the eastern part of the city of Calgary. Now, these incidents have been occurring with greater frequency over the past 2 months, but a particularly serious incident occurred yesterday. My question is to the Minister of the Environment. Is he aware of this incident, and if so, what does he intend to do about it?
Well, the hub oil plant, Mr. Speaker, has been the source of numerous complaints over the years. I guess when Forest Lawn was a town on its own, it was without the assistance of the honourable member, and it did quite well then too. Forest Lawn or hub oil was in the right place at the right time, but then residential development took place around the plant, and of course the pressure was brought to bear to have the plant clean up. And certainly since 1988 we have given the plant numerous orders, and steps have been taken to clean up the plant. Indeed, as the honourable member points out, on March 18th a number of complaints were received, and investigators were dispatched to find out what the problem was, and it was determined that there was a leak in one of the lines, resulting in hydrocarbon fumes being emitted into the air. I'm given to understand that those repairs have taken place, and the situation is being monitored.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The minister told me in writing last year that his department was doing further investigation of this plant, as well as looking at possibilities of relocating the plant to a non-residential area. And given that the minister has so far failed to live up to his commitment in a June 7, 1990 letter to keep me informed, copies of which I now file with the Assembly,
My question is this: when will the minister or his department be making a determination with respect to moving the plant from its current residential location?
Mr. Speaker, my recollection of the situation was an outrageous request.
Still is.
Was an outrageous request by the Minister for Forest Lawn to have the government pay to move this plant outside the city limits. Since when have you wanted the government to pay to have this plant moved? And we said that is utter nonsense, but we would investigate and discuss with the owners of the plant what could be done to ameliorate the problems that have occurred in the past and will probably continue to occur in the future until some long-term solution to this situation is found.
Edmonton Whitemud, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Premier criticized his very good friend, the member from Goldbar, for not doing her research thoroughly. Our very, very thorough research clearly supports that member's position that the building in Medicine Hat that she was referring to does not meet our standards of accessibility. It must be noted persons using wheelchairs must enter through the parkade to gain access. Let me remind the Premier, Mr. Speaker, this is a government building. This is a brand new building. This is a building that does not meet the intent of the building code. My question to the Premier: does the Premier find accessibility through a parkade acceptable by his standards?
Mr. Speaker, perhaps you'd indulge me while I give the honourable member the information regarding access to the building. Access for the handicapped to the building is gained by the following methods. A drop-off is located directly outside the front door on 3rd Street, providing wheelchair access into the main lobby, or ramp access to the rear entrance facing the 5th Avenue. All these accesses will have signage to prevent parking in these areas. A ramp from 5th Avenue provides discrete access to ADAC and the mental health unit. Assigned covered parking locating in the basement parkade provides wheelchair access to Fish and Wildlife, motor vehicles, and to both elevator cores. All levels of the building can be accessed from the elevators. Parkade doors accessing the elevator lobby from the parkade will be equipped with necessary hardware to facilitate handicapped access. Every level has male and female bathrooms which are specifically designed to meet the criteria for access and use by the handicapped in accordance with Alberta Building Code. Wheelchairs can be maneuvered within the bathrooms. Water closet stalls sized and fitted out in accordance with Building Code. Wash basins are designed with faucets designed for easy operation by the handicapped. Clearances under the wash basin allow knee room for the wheelchair user. Drinking fountains are located throughout the building which are specifically designed for the handicapped. Signage has been prepared by the Department of Public Works. And the signs are installed indicating access for the handicapped to the covered parking in the basement. These are temporary signs because the building's under construction. Permanent signage will be completed within the next few months.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Perhaps we have a copy for all members. I think the point is well made. Supplementary, Edmonton.
Speaker, it may be the government's intent, and it's a good intent if they do intend to do it. That building, however, Mr. Speaker, was not built to meet the standards that are laid down. Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, will he give us his undertaking that he will address his concern and ensure that it is done, not just intended to be done? The last two paragraphs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you don't want me to repeat the information I provided. The Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services may wish to make further comments regarding a building which he's responsible for.
Briefly.
Mr. Speaker, this facility, and I'd just like to reiterate one point that the Premier made, is that this building is not complete, Mr. Speaker, and while we have provided for occupation by certain individuals beginning last December, the building is still not complete. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, this facility is designed to fulfill all of the codes in the province of Alberta and all the requirements for full use and access by the handicapped.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions to the Minister in charge of Women's Issues. Madam Minister, yesterday when I was questioning the Minister of Agriculture as to why married couples in a full legal partnership farming qualify for only half as much as, say, two men in a legal partnership. He said that they are taking the issue up with the Agricultural Development Corporation Board of Directors. Does the minister consider that as a sufficient answer, that a policy is to be set by a Crown corporation as something as vital an issue as the questions of rights of married couples and farmlands?
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Minister of Agriculture is in consultation with a great many people, including myself, on that very issue, and I should think it only appropriate that the Board of Directors and President of the Alberta Agriculture Development Corporation be involved in that consultation.
Mr. Speaker, back again to the minister. Is the minister happy in any of these cases where it appears to be discrimination, and often in a married couple it'll be against the female side of the marriage, to leave it up to one of the minister's Crown corporations as to whether or not they're putting their full duty and full policy in place for women's issues?
Mr. Speaker, we're not leaving it up to the corporation entirely. The minister himself is directing the policy-making process. I might add, however, that the ADC, the Agriculture Development Corporation, is a very progressive corporation. It itself, for its employees, has introduced an employment equity program and is working on issues of that nature on a day-to-day basis for its own employees. And I would hold it up as one of the more enlightened employers in this province. On the issue, though, that the honourable member raised, let me say again, I've had discussions with the Minister of Agriculture. I know he has the matter in hand, and it's under review.
Calgary Milliken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as earlier mentioned there, in the city of Calgary, the Task Force on Family Violence was released, and it's a very sad report. Regular beatings by husbands, about a woman's shelter turned away hundreds of people, hundreds of mothers, no support for the natives and the immigrant women, and the list goes on and on. The YWCA, the General Hospital, the Pastoral Institute, and a lot of the good volunteer organizations are trying to help. They've done their best, but there's a need for more. They need more help for these people. And the member from Edmonton Gold-Bar earlier asked the Minister of Social Services perhaps throw some more money at the problem. I have a different question. Can the Honourable Minister sit down with his staff, come up with some solutions, a strategy, to be some counseling and things in the city of Calgary, and sit down with the people in Calgary and come up with a program to help in this problem? A firm commitment.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very anxious to receive a copy of the Mayor's Task Force. I personally have been very encouraged by the initiative and leadership that the Mayor of Calgary has shown on this issue. For many years, I have been saying that if we're going to find meaningful solutions, if we're going to find long-term solutions, it's going to require all levels of government, be it the federal level, be it the provincial level, be it the municipal level, all levels of government working in cooperation with communities and community agencies and individuals. And I'm hopeful, Mr. Speaker, that by working together in a concerted and focused way, that we will come up with some of those long, outstanding answers that Albertans are looking for.
Supplementary question. This is serious. This is a serious question. This is not frivolous. I'm disappointed in you. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, this spills over into several departments, and I wonder if the minister will confer with the Honourable Elaine McCoy, Minister for Women's Issues, the Minister for Municipal Affairs, which is in charge of housing. And will you bring these other people and their expertise and bring them all in so that it's not your department, that department, going their own way willy-nilly with ad hoc type of approach to this?
Mr. Speaker, the member is quite right that the issues at hand are very complex ones. They do involve a number of ministries within this government. And we recognize, Mr. Speaker, that it's very important for us to work closely together, to work in cooperation and in consultation with with each other, and as I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, in consultation and cooperation with other levels of government as well. This government is committed to do that. We recognize the seriousness of the problem, Mr. Speaker. We recognize that we have made considerable progress, but we also realize that there's much progress to be made, and we're committed to being a part of the solution, Mr. Speaker. We're committed to working together in cooperation with Albertans.
Okay. Orders of the day.
Written questions.